What the hell's Tim talking about? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Guys, 1 second. All right, sorry. The dog needed to go out. All right, we're recording. You guys can see my screen. You guys can hear me. I have a list of some questions that people had asked the other day that I wrote down. But before I get into those, what questions does anybody in here have in regards to supply and demand? It may be something that you're struggling with or something that you need a little clarity on. Maybe something you still don't fully understand. So before I get into the questions I've written down and cover those, does anybody in here have any questions they want to put in chat and ask me in terms of supply and demand and, things that you need clarity on or things that still maybe confuse you? And I know for a fact that you guys, I'm sure some people have questions in here, so please don't be afraid to ask those. Are you getting zones for supply demand off of bottom and top wicks? Yeah, Jackson. So this example here on SPY from yesterday and today, originally this zone, Jackson, was right here. So if we go look at the start of this zone, I had included the top of this wick, and at that time, Jackson, I believe, go back to the 5-minute. I believe I had it right here to be exact. Right at the start of this body. Now, why did I go? You're probably asking, well, why did I go from this wick to this body? Well, the reason I went from that wick to this body and not just wick to body is because that'd be, what, a 10-cent zone on something like SPY. Even if I went from these wicks to this body, that'd be only a 40-cent zone on SPY. That's way too small. The reason I went down all the way to this is because that's something that's a little bit bigger. That's about a 70-80 cent zone. And we also had what looked like a reversal. We retested that and rejected again. So that's why I included that. But along the way, I was adjusting this zone. You guys saw here, if I zoom back out and adjust this, I dragged it down to here. Now, why did I drag it down? Well, because that would also include these two bodies from today. So I am constantly adjusting my zones. And then later in the day today at like 1 o'clock, 12:30, I brought the zone up even more. It's still around my ATR, so I am able to do that. So yes, I am always going from wick to body. In this case, this would have been a pretty clear zone. Wick, okay, to body. In this first zone I drew, wick to body would have been a 10-cent zone. That's way too small. So you want something that's within that ATR. Does that help at all? And same with demand. No problem. For me is if you want me to ask. For me, I struggle to know when exactly to enter the trade. Let's look at this in replay. Actually, let's use the first zone we had. All right, Floral, let me try to explain this as easy as I can. So we have supply. We had SPY today right at open. We ripped at open, and then we start to approach supply. So let's try to break this down. So here, okay, we're into supply. Now, do you want to enter? So this candle moved into our zone and then closed out of it. But do you want to go short on such a strong candle? No, you don't. You want to try to identify that in real time. Let's look at our following candle. Okay, we make a move deeper into the zone, reject. This candle, this is almost a tweezer top. This would have been a potential good area to go short. We lose momentum. We reject back out of our zone. And you can see, again, we close into the 200. We retest that zone and start to work our way out. It's hard for it. This replay only lets me break it down so slow. But essentially what I look for is a change in momentum, which is what we got, an imbalance, a rejection out of the zone. This is our confirmation. I would have looked to enter probably on the next candle if I were you. Now, what I do, I have obviously more experience playing these zones. What I like to do is I like to try to enter. I see this, reject the zone, and work my way out. I would have tried to enter here. Watching the candle close. If I can enter this before the candle closes, if it still looks weak before close, that's when I would look to enter that. So it just all depends. Your safest bet is to wait for confirmation, which would have been the following candle. But when I'm able to enter within a zone, I know where my risk's at. I can enter within a zone, go short or long, and then I'm risking the top of the zone. And we can watch how this played out. We really start to flush here. Then we make a move into demand. We test the very bottom of that, and then we bounce. Again, we talked about this on stream. This would have been another potential opportunity to go long then, out of this zone. And again, you're looking for either confirmation out of the zone, or you're looking for what happened here was we close within the zone. We start to work our way out. This could have been my phone's going off. This could have been a potential entry opportunity, and you simply were risking the bottom of this zone. Does that clear anything up, Floral? Yeah, I played AMD and took a short position. $8:01 Eastern. Floral, 8 o'clock Eastern. Floral, you were trading commons? Oh no, I was gonna say, I think that's the wrong time. I was thinking the bottom wick on the 10-minute at 10:20 a.m. candle created the zone in this. I was thinking the bottom wick on the 10-minute. 10:20. Yesterday at 10:20. 10:20. This candle right here, Jackson? No, that didn't create the zone. You're still in a downtrend. No, that didn't create the zone. You're looking for trend to finish, and then in this case, we had a short-lived, well, if we go back to the 5-minute, we had a short-lived little micro move here, and then we flush back down. That's what created this zone. That just is nothing. Essentially, guys, to break it down as simply as I possibly can, we're looking for change in direction, which is what's going to create these zones. That's as simple as I can possibly put it. We're looking for a change in trend, which then creates these zones. And imbalance when buyers and sellers, start to take control from one another. At that red arrow. So you took puts at the top of that, Floral? I know it was profit for me, but we're just smart. No, Floral, so that rejection also is in line with whatever those lines are you have. I don't know if those are EMAs, VWAP, or whatever they are. So that looks like a good entry. Those were right in line above supply. So 200 EMA VWAP. Yeah, the 200 EMA is extremely strong, so that's a good entry. I like that entry. You just had to know at the time, if I take this short, I'm simply exiting if it breaks above this zone or breaks above this 200 EMA and VWAP. So I don't think that's, I really don't think that's a bad entry at all. I don't think that's luck. As long as you had a plan and realized, like I said, if that broke above, you just had to exit that. Why do you not have your bottom zone lower? Joe, where do you think my zone should be? Down here? Yes, Joe. Well, the reason I don't have that zone in is because this is the range we're in at the moment. If this breaks down tomorrow, I will try to find a zone, but I would have to start switching through time frames. It's a little bit clearer on the 10-minute, maybe a 30-minute will give me something, yeah, and then clearer on the 30-minute. So I could go in here like this, place my zone. It's a small zone, but it's a zone. It may even be up a little bit to include that, but that's the reason, honestly, is just because this is the range we're in at the moment, Joe. Joe, does that make sense, though? Like, if this range is broken in either direction, like if we break through supply or break through demand, then I'm going hunting for the next zone. No, an 1/8 to a 10th, Jackson. Can we get a quick recap on how to draw zones? Checo, sure, yeah, I can go over that really quickly. 1 second. Let me just get it caught up with chat. Do you ever set an order to get filled as it moving through the zone to get filled if it taps the other side? No, Jamie, I never do that. No, sir. It would be that, well, so that, I've done that with commons. Supply and, I got into supply and demand, trading momentum, trading commons and pennies, and I would do that at times, yes, if I was looking to average into my position. Absolutely, but for options, absolutely not, no. Okay, makes sense, but at the start of the day, that'd be the lower zone initially before acceleration at a higher high. Yeah, Joe, but so this was after hours yesterday, and then this was the gap up this morning. So when I saw we had gapped up this morning into open, this was what I was rolling with. But if we would have stayed somewhere down here, Joe, yes, absolutely, this would have been the zone. So that big white candle on the bottom, would you enter as it's pulling off the bottom of the zone, or as it exits the zone? Jamie, I personally look for something to exit the zone. Oh, shit. Oops. I look for a reaction with the zone, and then once I see it start to bounce out of the zone, and depending on how long until the candle closes, that's when I'm then looking to enter. Because, for example, you may see a candle bounce off the bottom, okay? Let me really zoom in. You may see a candle bounce off the bottom. It's working its way out of the zone, but there's still, say we're looking at a 5-minute candle. Say there's still 3 minutes until this candle closes. If I just go long right away, there's still 3 minutes for this candle to play out. You may very well bounce, pull out of the zone, and then work your way back down before that 5-minute candle closes. So it's kind of time dependent, and it's also, you know, what's the volume looking like? What's the, like, are buyers stepping in aggressively? Is it an aggressive move out of the zone? Because like I talk about, the shorter time spent in a zone, the stronger that zone is. Does it wick out of the middle and then the body completely comes out of the zone? So it's a bunch of different factors, but it depends on whatever time frame you're looking at, how long until that candle closes. Because like I said, if you're playing a 5-minute chart and you still have 3 minutes until that closes, and I enter here, that may very well still close back within the zone or flush through. So I hope that makes sense, but it is time dependent. You want to know how long until this candle closes. And the safest thing, honestly, to do if you're a beginner is to just wait till the candle closes completely. Oh, I didn't even think about the gap. Makes sense. So yeah, Joe, no problem. Checo, to draw zones. Let me get rid of these. So Checo, essentially what I'm looking for is I'm always looking to start at a wick and then go to the start of the body if that candle allows me to. So if we forget about this for a second, if we're just seeing this on a chart, we see strong move at open and then get smacked back down hard. This imbalance, or sellers taking control from buyers, is what creates this zone. So I see that we're in a downtrend now, I go from wick to body. So does that make sense? I'm going from the wick of this candle to the body, or what I would do in this scenario is probably drop it down to this body, because that zone's much more within my ATR, or much more around the average of 1/8 to 1/10 of the ATR of SPY. So if I only keep it to this, that's only about a 60-cent zone. This is much more within the ATR. This is about a $1.20, or no, 20. Somebody do the math for me. Yeah, $1.20 zone. So does that make sense, Checo? Essentially, I'm looking for a change in trend, and then I'm going from wick to body. So I hope that makes sense, Checo. I don't know if you're... Oh, I see you're still in here. That makes sense? Okay, yeah. And then the same for demand. I'm looking for the same thing. Change in trend. I'm going from wick to body. It's much easier, too, on a higher time frame, and I always suggest checking a higher time frame. Guys, let me look at the questions I have. Oh, this is a good one. Good versus a great zone. Good versus a great zone. What I think of a good zone is obviously something that interacts with it, respects it, and then makes a move out of it. A great zone is something that almost immediately you see an interaction. So say we're looking at this demand zone, and this and SPY's on its way down to demand. If you see an immediate reaction, almost immediate, that's a great zone. That's a strong zone. If you see something that just consolidates within a zone, that's a weak zone. If you see something that, like this today, we test the bottom and then work our way out, that's a good zone, but it took us to get all the way down to the bottom of this zone before we bounced. So I wouldn't classify this as a great zone. Also, what you can classify as a great zone is something that's respected multiple times. But you also have to realize that the more times a zone is tested, the weaker that zone becomes. But that's what I would classify as a good versus a great zone. If you had a 4-hour that happened to run through the middle of that, would you delete it after the action? If you had a 4-hour zone that happened to run through the middle of that. Are you talking through the middle of like this, Jamie? If I had a 4-hour zone that just kind of cut through this? No, that's when I utilize those lower time frames. So like a 10 or 15, maybe even a 30-minute. Because we saw these zones play out today. Let me look at another chart. AMD, was that right? There's another chart today. Was it Qs? Yeah, Qs. So another instance. This is the 10-minute. Supply to demand to supply to basically back to demand, and now we're just hovering near supply again. If I had a 4-hour zone that completely cut through this, hell no. There's no way. That just doesn't make sense. So I'll go to something like a 10 that I drew this on. I'll go something to like the 15. And then I'll use those zones instead. And are you posting this, John? Well, I don't know what John means, but yeah, this recording surely getting posted, yeah. Shelly, do you know what John means? Shelly might know. Oh, Shelly does not know. I thought Shelly might back me up on that. We know how you get. I answered defining the start of the zones, intraday zones versus 4-hour. Intraday zones versus 4-hour. A good example of that, guys, is these zones today. These are intraday zones. My original zone was down here on Qs. This was my original zone. These intraday zones, well, these zones were formed intraday. This zone was formed from 9:40 to 9:50, and this zone was formed from 9:20 to 9:30. So intraday zones versus 4-hour. At all times, I am trying to set 4-hour zones, and if the night before, but if I can't identify them on the 4-hour, then I'll draw them on the 10-15 minute. But I'm always setting zones the night before. But it is extremely important to update your zones intraday. And all these charts I was posting today were intraday zones. And we had a nice range today. So yes, one or the other aren't, a 4-hour zone is going to be respected because it's on that higher time frame. But one is not more important than the other. You need to make sure you're absolutely updating your zones throughout the day. John, chiefly in East. Wait, how do I not know what that is? I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. I bet McCabe knows what that is for sure. Another question I had. Do zones work on higher time frames? Yes, absolutely. Somebody asked me about the daily. I do not draw zones on a daily time frame. Some people might, but I personally don't. Some people asked about where stop loss placement would be when playing zones. Me personally, I always either, if I'm taking a rejection out of supply, my stop's above. If I'm taking a bounce out of demand, my stop's below. I do not suggest that as a beginner because there'll be times where you take an entry out of a zone, okay, and then it could go against you but not break the zone, but you still be down 5-10%. I would suggest then at that point basing your kind of get out or stop loss, mental stop hard, whatever, based off percentages. So say you take a demand bounce, but it starts working against you but doesn't get out of the zone, but you're still down like 10%, then you got to cut it. So, but for me personally, I'm willing to risk a little bit more. I personally am using my zones as my stop placement areas. Do you acknowledge zones created afterwards pre-market? No, Jackson. I think of them all the same, honestly. And that was another question. Somebody said, do I use after-hours data? Yes, I do, because after-hours zones are respected just like intraday zones or just like any other zone for that matter. So, yes, I absolutely do. I do take those into consideration. Guys, does anybody else have any other questions? Let me link these videos, and I know I've linked them 1,000 times, but I'm sure there's some people that have not watched these, and I would definitely suggest doing so. Let me find this. So there's that. These two videos, guys, are great. I love Carmine and Day Trading Addict. They're very, very good with supply and demand stuff. If you're still struggling with drawing zones, please, please, please watch those videos. Please, please. Those will definitely, without a doubt, help you. I've seen your call put trigger list for the days. Do you play those, and how do you determine your triggers? Jamie, so I'll normally include things that I'm playing on those, such as Apple, AMD. It's basically everything that I normally watch, like Ford, FCell, DraftKings, Nvidia, some other stuff. How do I play those? Jamie, I have a couple videos on how I determine those triggers in the education section, but essentially it's me looking at my levels and using a bunch of different time frames to get those levels and whatnot. But I have a bunch of videos on those in education. You're going to have to scroll up, though. I think those are posted a few months ago. Yeah, no problem. Guys, anybody else have any other questions? remember, tomorrow Teddy will be in here with me at 10 a.m. trading, so that should be a good time. And like I said, that'll be at 10 Eastern. But does anybody else have any other questions? Thanks, Jamie. Yes, Apple does have earnings tomorrow, guys. Thank you, Tim. I completely forgot about that. So I know a lot of you guys like to play Apple, but yeah, Jackson, no problem. No, yes, seriously, Tim. It really will. Do not play Amazon earnings. As you play Amazon earnings? Have you covered the highly correlated stocks like Apple and SPY near their zones, but one is farther away, and how you treat that scenario? So Joe, it's gonna... There's days where something like SPY and Apple will be completely aligned, or something like Ford and SPY, or something like FCell and IWM, or Qs and whatever, that they'll be completely aligned, and there'll be days where their zones match up, but there'll be days, just as many days, Joe, where they're completely, they're not connected in any way, shape, or form. So honestly, for me personally, Joe, I just basically play whatever's in front of me. So say I'm looking at Apple, and there were days last week where Apple was the only thing that was green. Apple was running, SPY was tanking. So I'm just basically looking at whatever's in front of me and focusing on that. So for instance, like I said, if I'm looking at Apple, I'm obviously always looking at the indices, but I'm just looking at my zones for Apple, and that's what I'm playing off of. Because there's days where they will be aligned, and there's days where they'll just completely be devoid of one another. Hey, fuck you. That means we should play Amazon earnings. No YOLO. I certainly will not be playing Amazon. That is for certain. I'm playing Apple. Guys, does anybody else have any questions, though? If not, I'll hop off. I recorded this, so I will get that posted. Please watch those videos if you're still struggling with drawing zones. Those videos will definitely help you. Also, I have a bunch of content on supply and demand. I don't even know how much content I have on it now. So obviously not showed. Oh, guys, I see a couple people typing. How do you play a zone if you're in the middle of updating it intraday? Joel, what exactly do you mean by that? Did I ever post Tim's video about Turbo? Oh, Jamie, I don't know. I'll look after this. Did I post that? Did I post that? I'll look after this, Jamie. No, he hates you. That is not true. You just don't know how to record your own stream. Yeah, Joel, if you can elaborate on that, I can definitely answer that for you. How do you play a zone if you're in the middle of updating it intraday? Joel, do you mean something on SPY today? Like SPY today where I had to update it from this? Or where was it? No, it was from this to this. That, yes. Well, if you don't know the zone. All right, so Joel, this is what happened today. Essentially, we had supply. Okay, we had interaction with zone, but it was broken through. At this time, we still respected this, and it, there was potential we broke out. It got smacked back down. After it got smacked back down is when I extended my zone. Oh, don't do that. Is when I extended my zone. Okay, we then saw it start to curl in, but reject. So now I could have played this rejection. I had my zone adjusted. So here at like 210, you see a nice rejection. That could have been a potential opportunity. So basically, I was just waiting to see what this did, because this is me talking in hindsight, Joel. If this would have broke above supply and just ran, this would have been, that would have just been a supply break, and it back tested and confirmed this as demand and ran, and then this just would have been demand, but it got smacked back down, pretty heavy at the top, so that's why I adjusted this. So once I adjusted this, then I realized, okay, this is the top of my zone. We worked our way out. I can still play this, either a break above or a rejection. Does that answer your question? So it wasn't until after the fact that I was able to adjust this. It's not like I was adjusting this and then trying to play it at the same time. I had to wait till after the fact.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. I was just curious how you, like I said, if you had to update it, how were you interacting with that zone to take a trade? Then you said you couldn't. You had to wait until
you
adjusted it, and then
because like I was saying, Joel, at that time, it honestly looked good here. I think what caused this today, was it Facebook, guys? Somebody said it was Facebook, I think. They leaked their earnings or something. But this looked good here. And Joel, I would put my money on this probably runs if it breaks the 200 and the 200 EMA. And this looked good. I think it was some news on Facebook that actually caused this. So, like I said, after this flushed hard, that's after this candle at 1 o'clock is when I then updated it. So after the fact, then I can be like, okay, I still have the bottom of my zone that I can play a rejection. I have the 200s overhead, and if I'm trying to go long on a supply break, I know now that this is the new top of my zone, which was at the time right here. So, but yeah, after it got smacked back down is when I then updated it and just treated it like any other zone. Have you ever thought about buying a call and a put on SPY at open and just letting the winner run? Curious. A lot of people do that. If you know what you're doing. But no, I personally don't. Yeah, Joel, no problem. Joel, or curious, a lot of people do this with earnings too. Like people play straddles all the time, but you just have to know, what you're doing. Yes, straddles is what they're called, but people do those with earnings. People do those like you were talking about with SPY. But with straddles, you need, I believe, a pretty impulsive move. So that's why people play straddles with earnings, because no matter what happens, 9 times out of 10, you're getting that impulsive move. Yeah, because if you buy, like, curious, if you buy a straddle on SPY and it just does nothing, you're losing double the money. So, no, Tim, I saw your question. Are you being sarcastic, or did you not hear that was asked already 5 times?
I thought somebody was that's what they were trying to ask. That's all.
Oh
Sorry.
no,
I apologize for trying to help out the group.
so I answered that. I'm pretty sure. I definitely answered that. For sure. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It is recorded, so it will be posted. Me and Teddy will be live tomorrow at 10. Anybody that wants to join in is obviously welcome to do so. And then Sandy will be live tomorrow night. Hudak will be live Friday morning, I believe, and then I'll be live right after him. So there's quite a bit going on. The plans will be posted here in a little bit for anybody that's interested in those. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night and are ready for tomorrow. So I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody.